Closed captioning for A Piece of the Woods was brought to you by Schroeder's Log Home Supply, supplying builders for over 20 years. Underwriting for A Piece of the Woods was brought to you by
Extreme Interiors International, building log homes for over 20 years. But we don't stop at the structure. We expose the hidden art of nature, the diverse character of trees into your habitat. To us, it's not a building project, it's an art project.
There are still a few American companies dedicated to bringing quality into your workplace. We are one of them. Quality Manufacturing Company. Quality tools for quality work.
Tenonizer Technology, an original equipment manufacturer dedicated to improving the quality of log construction for the log building family, finding better ways to bring a piece of the woods into your home.
Great Woods Cabinetry is a full custom cabinet shop, working projects from the start or just at the finish. From online to on-site, check us out at www.greatwoodscabinetry.com.
Here we are out at the job site where we have been supplying some accent work for this conventional house. We're going to be putting a straight log stairway right here, so stay tuned for another piece of the woods. Well, we've got our stairway measurements now. This is going to all blend together with the rest of the accent work that we've got in the house. We've got log rafters that we supply, we've got a log truss outside the front door, fireplace mantles, and all sorts of pieces like that. But it's all going to blend together with this. Now our stairway, coming from the loft, coming to the landing, turn 90 degrees and come the rest of the way down. Now the landing is the heart of this whole stairway. And that's what we're going to put together today. The guys already have the parts pulled out at the shop already, so we're ready to get back over there and start putting some of this together. The material that we're using on this stairway is Norway pine. Now these logs were sawed up 2 years ago and they've been stored inside since then. Now what we're after first is, well, we've laid all our material out here in a row so we can see exactly what we've got. We decided to pull the stair treads out first because they got some more requirements to them. They're after a stair tread 11 to 12 inches wide, and we're keeping in this natural edge. That's what the owners wanted, to keep this natural edge on the stair treads. Now stuff like this right here, we're going to sand that, sand it back a little bit, but we're going to keep the natural edge on both sides of it. Now we've already taken and trimmed the ends off here, and we're measuring back to a 3'6" as far as the length of the tread. That's going to give us enough room to cut our tenons and get it fitted together. Now the next parts we're looking for, the landing. Now the landing is going to be 4'8" on the outside corners. So that's the ones we're hunting here next. Now these two are 12 feet long. Now we only need 4'8" on the outside corners, but we're just going to cut these two in half, and that'll give us a little bit of room to work with, a 6-foot blank to start with. Give us enough room to trim it back perfect. Somewhere in here are our stair horses, but I might wait until we've got the landing together to see how the character of that looks before I actually choose out the stair horses, but they're here someplace. What we want to use to support our landing is some nice flare bottom posts, fresh from, well, not fresh from the swamp, these have been out for about a year. It's like this one here with this flare bottom. This is what we're going to use to support our landing right here. Stuff like this. This one's a little bit too big, so we're going to have to hunt further out in the pile. And we need something to make it right around 10 feet long to make it work. Now I know in this pile we've got at least 4. Yeah, we got 1 right here. So that's 1. And this one here. This one's really good. This will make number 2 right here. 3, 1 more, number 4 right there. So we got all 4 of them. Well, we're ready to get these things moved into the shop. Well, first we're going to pull the bark off of them. Then we'll get them moved into the shop and start fitting our landing and things together. Once the landing's together, we can fit our stair horses onto it and it'll start looking like a stairway. Got here now is we brought the stair treads in so we can cut them, or recut them I should say, because as they dry, see this hump that gets into them? See this right down here, see that? All right, that's what you're going to find on any log when you split it in half, and as it dries you get a hump in the center, it pulls back on both edges. There's not much cracking on the rest of the log, but it does have this hump in it, and we'll cut that out. We'll just take a thin layer off, a little slice off of it, and we'll have to do that to each one of the stair treads also. Now we've got that just exactly flat for our landing. We'll cut the other 3 and then we'll be ready to fit that portion of our stairway together. Now this would be the top of our deck right here, of our landing. And we're going to take the deck boards and they'll be mortised into the top here and they'll sit right in a notch that we're cutting right on top here. And that'll make the top of our landing. There's going to be a miter cut, 45-degree miter cut here, another one down there, and that'll make the box for our landing. Personally, I think sheetrock all by itself is kind of boring. So we're going to use a texture on here. It's a favorite one that I've got. And we need to get so everything's consistent. Now, just taking a bucket of mud and we're just going to use regular tape joint compound, this 3-in-1 stuff for the texture, but we're going to add exactly 2 cups of water to it to thin it out a little bit so we can maintain the consistency that we've been using in the rest of the room here. Oh, another thing, see this blender, mixer? It's got all these little fins on it and holes in here. This one gets the lumps out faster than any that I've ever used, It really makes a world of difference having one that does a very good job of blending the mud up. On this texture, well, for part of it, we're using just a regular, it's a 4-inch brush, but it's got Chinese bristle. It's nice bristle, but it's just pretty much a common brush. And it's all wrist action. Everything is just with the wrist, short, but it's all just wrist motion kind of stuff. There's nothing really movement from the elbow down. It's just wrist. Now, one of the things that's really nice about using this finish that is consistently inconsistent is that if you miss a place, say like right here, see how the dark, that's it, I missed it. You just come back to it and go there, A little here. Where else did I miss? Anyhow, you'll never see that spot. It'll dry, blend in perfect. Well, that completes 2.5 gallons of mud, 500 and some square feet of wall, and we've got this room textured. We've got the box of our landing fitted together here, and it come together very nicely. As you can see, we've got 4 temporary stilts fitted to the inside of our landing, holding it to the finished height of our landing. Now I've got one of these corners bolted together with the finished bolts, and it will be capping those later. And then as I fit the other bolts in these corners, I want you to take a look at Josh has brought his project inside. We got a frog strangling rain going on outside. So we moved the post debarking in here. You can take a look at that as we work on these corners and get them ready to fit the posts to the outside here.
I'm not sure what a frog strangling rain is, but I'm indoors and I'm thankful for that. I'm going to peel this log that's been seasoned for 1 year, and the difference between this log and one that was fresh cut is if it was fresh cut, we'd have to have pressure washed it to remove the bark. But like this, comes off by hand really pretty easily. Occasionally there's a spot that's going to peel harder than others, but most of it is going to come off simple. I have a knife handy in case I get a little piece of cambium that won't come up, and I'll just poke at it and pull it out of there. This is kind of a neat log. It's got some character to it. I'm going to get this bark out of here, and it's going to clean up just pretty as can be.
To make this work right, we need to cut the bottom of the post so it is precisely flat, so it fits to the hardwood floor. Okay, come on over here. You got to take a look at this now. We've got our first post in. First one's the hardest. But tell me, can you tell me, take a close look at this and see which one was cut, the post or the landing? You're going to have to look real close, because I don't think you can tell. We got one post in. This is our next post. But in order to get this post, come here. You got to come here. All right. In order to get this one to fit like the last one, we need to get our scribe. We're going to scribe it with this. We need to get our scribe mark as narrow as possible. So we're going to take the chainsaw and go and cut a couple inches off of this, push the post a little closer, scribe it with this, cut it with a little grinder, and then fit it back up there. And this one's going to look as good or better than the last one. We'll get this so it just barely touches our landing here. There we go. And centered. Perfectly, precisely centered. Now on this scribe, we can't, because it's forever changing, we can't use our little bubble level. We can't use that part. We're just going to have to guess really close. That's why we want to keep the scribe as small as possible. Some of it is not an exact science like this. Usually you can call it an exact science and be just absolutely close, but not on this one. All right, this is what we're going to cut it with, this little 3-toothed arbor tech cutter. I've never had a problem with these kicking back, ever. These have always done very nicely, very safe. And we're going to hollow this out and split the pencil line in half. We're going to save half the pencil line. Now, remember that little scratch mark that I made on here, that we left here? Okay, I've sanded a little ways back towards that little scratch mark because this is such a sharp scribe that we sanded some off here rather than cutting a deeper scribe here. Now, we've saved half of the line. I'm just going to take and sand that little bit of line off of there. And just pop it up into place. Everything should just fit. Just nice, nice, nice. Now we'll put a strap on it and pull it in nice and snug. And bolt it. This is the last bolt on the last post, and our landing's just about done. Do you remember the lyrics to the song, "They paved paradise and put up a parking lot"? Well, a lot of the fields and forests that I played in as a kid are now part of suburbia. When you consider that thought and the fact that most species of trees don't live to be more than 100 years old, we find three things. One, most of the trees growing here today were not here when your grandpa was born. And two, we need to harvest the trees that our grandparents planted while we plant trees for our kids and our grandkids. And three, we need to do better on less space. So how are we doing when you consider space and land and time and forests? Well, when you add it all up and look at the year 1600 and look at the forest land of the year 1600, we find that we still have 70%, that's right, 70% of the forest land that was here in the year 1600, we still have in the year 2006. And well, you say, well, how can that be? You cut so many trees. Well, just like the farmers, we plant and we harvest, and we are producing more on less space. First thing we're going to do is snap a line right down the center of our stair horse here. Right smack down the middle of it. And then come back down to the beginning and mark the angle of our stairway, or the rise and the run, which we have a run per stair tread of 9 inches, rise of 9, which gives us on our hypotenuse again of our triangle, which gives us a 12.05 something, which is basically 12 inches from nose to nose. So we'll set this up at 9, there's string, 9-inch run and 8-inch rise. Mark the angle there. And then we come down 9 feet and 1/4 of an inch, and that's going to give us our total length right down to the bottom of our stairway. It's unique how they work out. Most stairways are going to land, if they're a comfortable walking stairway, from nose to nose on the stair treads, they're going to be almost exactly 12 inches, nose to nose. And here we're coming 9 feet and 1/4 inch. And come back with our 9-inch run and 8-inch rise. And mark that. That's going to be our first 2 cut marks. Now we're still going to have to scribe the thing in to fit the landing, but this is our starting spot right here. Oh, I'm cutting the couch. What a deal. Well, we're ready to get these inside and scribe fit to our landing. Well, we've got this just about ready to scribe. We got to get it a little bit closer, keep the scribe as small as we can. Let's take a look at what we're working with here, really. We've got here's our steps coming up here. We go thump, 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 right up to our landing, right here. Now this little nosing thing here on the top of the deck, we're gonna have to bring that out and add that in. And then you come and you turn 90 degrees and go pump, pump, pump up the rest of the way. Okay, but now what we've got to get is this stair horse that comes up here, we've got to bring that up, get it scribed to our landing, fitted nice and tight, get both of them so they're a match, and then we can go on to this top flight of steps and go the rest of the way up to our second floor up here. Well, more's been said than's done. I got to get these things scribed, and then we'll be ready to talk about stair treads pretty quick here. We've got our second stair horse in here, and look at this joint here. Come in and take a look at this. Now this was an absolute challenge. It was a bit of a pain too, but that's basically a precise, you don't get any better than that fit. Now, from the landing going up to the second floor, that's going to be much more like a regular log stairway. You'll see the difference, much easier to get it all fitted together. We'll show you the next piece later, but we've got these in, and now that's ready to put our holes in here for our tenons. We've got marked out here. There's one mark, next mark, and we're going to be putting a 1/2-inch diameter hole all the way through the log using the laser guided drill, and then we're going to come back with a 4 5/8 bit. We're going to cut in there 2 inches deep, and that'll fit the tenon that holds the stair tread. Got it? Okay, so that's next on the agenda. We're going to be drilling the guide holes with it using the laser guided drill. This is precisely accurate. We're going to put a 1/2-inch hole through it that matches up exactly with the other side, so once we cut the tenons, everything fits just so. Get it up there. On the stairway going up to the loft, even though it's log, we're going to be able to cut it out or mark it out pretty much the same as a regular stairway using the framing square, except that we're going to be going off of the chalk line down the center of the log instead of the edges. Okay, that's the one difference there. As we go to cut it out, we're pulling a bigger saw out. We're using a 10 1/4-inch saw to make our cutting there, which still doesn't get us all the way through the 6 inches thick. So when we go to cut it off, we're going to drop in and cut it off the rest of the way with the Sawzall. And then from here, we are going to stair treads. For more information about A Piece of the Woods Season 2 Conventional Building with Logs in Mind, go to www.apieceofthewoods.com. There you'll also find the log furniture building episodes of Season 1. And remember, the woods is where treasure is hidden for you, not from you.
Underwriting for A Piece of the Woods was brought to you by
Extreme Interiors International, building log homes for over 20 years. But we don't stop at the structure. We expose the hidden art of nature, the diverse character of trees into your habitat. To us, it's not a building project, it's an art project.
There are still a few American companies dedicated to bringing quality into your workplace. We are one of them. Quality Manufacturing Company. Quality tools for quality work.
Tenonizer Technology, an original equipment manufacturer dedicated to improving the quality of log construction for the log building family, finding better ways to bring a piece of the woods into your home.
Great Woods Cabinetry is a full custom cabinet shop, working projects from the start or just at the finish. From online to on-site, check us out at www.greatwoodscabinetry.com.
Closed captioning for A Piece of the Woods was brought to you by Schroeder's Log Home Supply, supplying builders for over 20 years.